Hello and welcome to PerkyPod. My name is Ben Perkins. I hate my phone and I sometimes want to snap it, but I also love my phone and I use it every day for a lot of things that help me become a lot more productive. So I'm going to be chatting a bit about some of those things, how I balance that and the next steps I want to take, because I really need to change the way I use my phone, as I know I'm just not being very sustainable at the moment. I'm spending too much time on it. I'm kind of knee-jerk reaction is just to go to my phone when I'm bored, and that is just not sustainable for me. And I think there's probably a lot of other people in similar situations, so it would be good to chat about that and some of the practical steps I already implement to help reduce the time I waste on my phone, but also thinking, even though I've got these things in place, what more can I do to help? So I've kind of had an issue with my phone since I've had a phone, to be fair. I've always felt I've spent longer than I want to be spending on it, and I'm aware of the stats when I look at how much time I spend a day. When that's over my lifetime, that is years and years on my phone, and that's not fun. Although some of that is going to be inevitable and some of that I need to do. I need to be kind of keeping up with friends and family via WhatsApp. That's for me really, really useful, and I really value that. It's really useful keeping up on emails and other things on my phone, but also I think there's a limit to how much I should be doing on it. And I think often I'm going over that limit, because a lot of the time I'm spending on my phone isn't just WhatsApp and catching up with friends and family or Google Maps and these utilities and useful things that phones have. But a lot of the time it's kind of social media, wasted time on scrolling and things. So over the years I've had different app blockers and things like ScreenZen, and now using Opal to try and reduce the time I spend on my phone. I found that has been really valuable, really helpful in kind of when I have that knee-jerk reaction when I'm bored, I just get my phone out, click on Instagram. I find actually that helps get rid of some of those kind of sudden reactions, because I have to wait. There's a timer where it tells me you're not allowed on Instagram at all, and that I found has been really, really helpful in stopping me kind of just those little moments wasting time when actually I just need to be more present. But even despite the blockers, I kind of, when I'm bored or when I want to, I can find ways around them. And I think whatever blockers you put on, unless you just fully get rid of social media, there's always going to be a way kind of around them. So my kind of mission is, through this video, is kind of share where I'm at and share the kind of next steps I want to be, implementing, or the next kind of, the next place I want to be with the way I use my phone. So I think I want to be in a place where I'm not kind of instantly, reaching for my pockets. I've had times I've just left my phone wherever, and I've been just reaching for my pocket and feeling a bit on edge that I don't have it, that I can't get these notifications and things. And I think it's, phones are designed like a slot machine, and the kind of psychology is the same psychology used in gambling, which is pretty scary, that kind of the refreshing of notifications and the kind of refreshing of trying to, get that next hit of dopamine is exactly the same as slot machines. And that makes us just constantly want to be checking in on it and having it on us all the time, which is really not sustainable for ourselves, not great at all for our kind of mental state. If we're always on edge, always kind of trying to have the new hit of dopamine and relying on that for our dopamine, rather than genuine kind of things that bring us actual joy. As I know, getting a notification on my phone, for the most part, isn't genuine deep joy. It's, some nice little thing, oh cool, whatever, but actually at the end of the day it doesn't make much difference. So I want to be in a place where I'm not kind of trying to have this kind of hit of dopamine from my phone as a reliance piece. And I want to be in a place where I'm not always kind of grabbing my phone in those moments of boredom, that actually I can give myself time to, just be. And if I'm, waiting for something, to actually not be thinking, oh, I'm just going to go on my phone. Instead, I might actually just pray, or I might just appreciate where I'm at and look out the window, or look at God's creation or whatever. And I think that's somewhere I really want to be bringing myself into. And I think practically there are various steps that can be helpful for me to implement even more on my phone and some of the blockers, and really kind of understand how some of the blockers work, as I've got a variety of them on my phone, but I don't think I fully implement them as effectively as I could, which I think would be really important. But also having strict rules with myself and actually having alternatives if I'm thinking I want to scroll, rather than just scrolling, having like, okay, here's an easy alternative I can do that's not much effort and is going to help me go on my way. Because I've had some times when I've been late at night, I was like, oh, I'm about to start scrolling. I started and I was actually, no, I'm going to completely do a U-turn, and I went on a run. And that was awesome. But I know realistically, I'm not going to be able to tell myself to go on a long run each time I get out Instagram for a scroll or whatever. So something I'd love to be in a place is to have different alternatives. And I think some of those could be, reading, playing my guitar, sketching or whatever. But also those things aren't always the most relaxing or aren't always the kind of easiest ways. You know, like if my head's in a place where I want to just sit down and relax, sometimes that's not going to quite be it. And I found actually realizing if I do want to watch something, rather than scrolling on Instagram, but actually maybe going to YouTube and watching a longer form video is actually a lot more beneficial, because it's not kind of, yes, it's dopamine, but it's a more, I'd say, sustainable source of dopamine if I'm being intentional to watch something on YouTube and say, yes, I want to watch, you know, a video about, you know, running or whatever thing. That is, I think, a lot more effective and a lot more, better than kind of accidentally finding yourself on Instagram and scrolling. So I think the intentionality behind spending time on social media is one of the issues I struggle with, because I think there's nothing wrong with having, you know, a good scroll and watching some funny videos, and there's a lot of fun stuff out there. I do really enjoy it, but I enjoy it more when I'm being intentional. When I'm not intentionally on it and I'm wasting time when I should be doing my uni work, or should be doing some business work, or should be catching up with people, that's when I think the issue is for me. And I don't think there's anything wrong inherently with watching funny videos, but I do think it's wrong when you don't want to be doing that in your heart, but it's just the easier thing to be doing at the time, so you kind of default go to doing that rather than doing that difficult task. And I think that's one of the things I struggle with, is I look at it as a kind of get out of jail free card. Let's just do a bit of scrolling rather than addressing the thing I need to do. And then it means when I do need to do that thing, I'm usually more tired and drained, because actually scrolling doesn't really fill me, and, you know, spend time on my phone doesn't really help me feel energized. It actually just helps drain me. So I think I want to be in a place where I'm not kind of constantly relying on my phone for that hit, and that I'm actually able to, when I know I'm tired, to not default to that. Maybe think, right, I'm going to just stop, I'm going to do something else. Maybe I'm going to watch some longer form content on YouTube if I think actually I do just want a bit of time, you know, watching something, but not that. Or it could be a documentary, it could be TV, whatever. Or just completely go away from that, maybe do something small and productive, you know, be that tidy my room, be that go out, get a bit of exercise, or, you know, just do a few little tasks on my to-do list. And I think having those little wins can then really mean, you know, it's easier to get on with some of the bigger tasks. If I start with a few small things, then build up. If I can do that, I can do that, and then I can actually focus on a slightly bigger task. And I think my phone often gets in the way of me doing those things, because I know rather than getting on that big task, I can just have a little bit of time on my phone and procrastinate, and then often that task just gets put to the next day and the next day and then the next day, which for me is often then just means it never happens. And I've got so many little tasks on my to-do list that are actually really nice things to do, but I think aren't important enough to do. Be that going through photos, posting on Instagram. Like, I've got a backlog of 6 to 9 months worth of Instagram posts I want to do, which is actually a really nice thing to do. And I really enjoy going through my photos and sharing photos and kind of going through those memories to kind of create a, you know, digital scrapbook. But it's one of those things I've not really prioritized, because I think I've got other more important tasks, which I do. But actually, when I find myself scrolling on Instagram, rather than that time scrolling, I could be doing kind of semi-productive tasks that are nice to do, or going kind of through a photo, you know, making a photo album. I've got loads of photos I want to put in a photo album. I've been pushing that off just because I'm quote unquote too busy. But actually, it's just the prioritization of time and putting my phone ahead of that genuine rest that I need. And I think giving myself time to, you know, look through my photos, sort my photo albums out, you know, tidy my room, you know, can be restful in many ways, and it's actually something I really want to be leaning into more. So practically, I think I'm going to be working on these things, and I kind of want to be sharing this journey to kind of keep me accountable for where I'm going to be going. I'm going to hopefully show what my current screen time is at the moment, which will hopefully be somewhere up here. And hopefully I'm going to try and work to get that down. I don't actually know what my screen time is. I imagine it's 2-3 hours a day or so, sometimes worse, sometimes better, but I'd love to be able just to get that lower down, and also be kind of, I want to critically look at what am I spending time on my phone on, and actually where can I cut that, because I do understand there's some areas I can't cut that down on, and I think that's just understandable. In life now, there is general life admin that needs to be done, and a phone is essential for that. And I kind of have considered getting a what's called a little flip phone, but I think for me that as a practical step would actually be a backward step, because that means I don't have those useful things that a phone has, and actually would de-enhance my productivity. But so practically, I'm going to be kind of reducing that knee-jerk reaction. I'm going to be implementing more kind of blocks on my phone, be that Opal, ScreenZen, and going to be having alternatives that are easy for me to do, be that reading, sketching, tidying my room, going out on a walk. So I'd really encourage anyone who might be listening that might be struggling with this, have a list of things that you could do that's an alternative to the wasting your time on phone, and identify the apps and things you're struggling with and that are getting in the way of you actually doing the things you want to be doing, and kind of what is making you, what are the kind of things that kind of making you suddenly go on your phone and, picking it up. As I find, if you can identify what those little triggers are to make you go on it, getting rid of those can be really, really helpful. So those are kind of some of the practical things I'm thinking of. I'd love it if anyone is listening to be able to kind of share, if you could share some of the things you've done to help you on that journey, or things you're hoping to do. That would be, really helpful for me personally, but also I'd love to be able to kind of share that with others, so we can all kind of help grow into a place where we're happy with the way we're using our phones. As I don't want to be on my deathbed thinking, wow, I wish I just spent less time on my phone. I want to be thinking, actually, I'm glad I've implemented things in my 20s to mean I'm not addicted to my phone in the way that I, am at the moment. And I think that's something I'd really love to be able to grow into. And I think I'm going to do another podcast episode on how can your phones affect your relationship with God. As a Christian, I think it's, it can really get in the way of our relationship with God. And I've actually done a seminar on this before, so I'll probably dig up some of that and have a chat about that in a future one. But yeah, thank you so much for everyone that has been listening. Do share your thoughts below, and hopefully we'll be updating soon about how this kind of progress of spending less time on my phone is going. And it would be great to kind of keep each other accountable through this. Yeah, thanks so much for listening, guys. God bless. Bye.